Hey everyone, it's Sergeant Rajan with Uniform Recruitment, and thank you for joining me on another session of Ask Me Anything on this beautiful Wednesday, May 20th. So halfway done as we get through the month of May. Um, we weren't able to join you for our last session a week ago as we wait for people. The OPP family. We were in attendance for the remembrance of one of our colleagues that tragically passed away. His funeral was held um, a few weeks ago. So we were all there showing our support to his family and certainly our fellow uniform members as they dealt and got through that. But we're back. Certainly looking forward to answering your questions about the hiring process and anything that you want to know or need to know about our hiring process. We're actually about 2 weeks, maybe less than 2 weeks away as we start our next class with our new recruits reporting for duty when it comes to their training session on June 1st. So looking forward to welcoming all of them to the OPP General Headquarters as they come in for orientation and certainly afterwards as they make their way to the Ontario Police College for training. So a lot of things happening. And for those of you that have been attending our shuttle run sessions, it's always a pleasure meeting you, answering questions, and certainly interacting and engaging with you. For all the events that we are hosting that are upcoming as we start going into our summer months, which are very, very busy, please go on to opp.ca/events and you'll be able to see all the different events that we are hosting throughout the province. And certainly looking forward to seeing many of you there uh, in terms of answering questions or even engaging with you. Again, as always, I do my best to address all the questions. Each time I start the session, my focus is to, answer every single question that comes in. And I feel like I never do that. So maybe today's the day I answer all the questions. We'll see how it goes. Again, thanks for joining. I see people are hopping on the session. And again, one of the things I think we're looking forward to as we welcome our new recruit class. I always look and see, the caliber of the candidates that we have, the amazing effort and work that the recruitment team, the processing team puts in as we prepare for the intake and certainly seeing the product, the final product of the recruit class that we put together, is always astonishing. So that's one of the things I look forward to. I always think about, which of the candidates that I actually interviewed actually make it all the way to the end and actually get the job offer, and that's something I always try to look up. And certainly, it's always refreshing when I get messages or emails from candidates that I either met at events or certainly had the chance to interview, and they call me or email me to let me know that they actually got the job offer, which is a very gratifying and satisfying feeling. So certainly, I'm sure that's something that hopefully happens to many of you that are watching this session today, and certainly you get the chance to go through our process. Okay, let's hop on here. I see the questions are coming in already, so we'll jump on the first one here. Vision test for applicants. I think this candidate is asking specifically for the auxiliary process, but there is a vision and hearing requirement. So this is done towards the end of our process when you are in the medical stage. But if you are getting your OACP certificate, certainly you would do this as part of that certificate. As you know, for the OPP, there is no OACP certificate requirement to apply. You can apply to the OPP for the constable process without the OACP requirement. But if you choose to get the certificate, certainly it's beneficial to you because you would be able to do the vision and hearing as part of that testing requirement. But one thing I do always implore and suggest, if you're concerned about your vision and hearing, please take the time to go get yourself assessed. So please go see an optometrist or an audiologist to get yourself assessed for the standards. And we have the standards available for you on the frequently asked questions page on our OPP website, opp.ca/careers. And if you go to the frequently asked questions section, you actually can print that section out for your vision and hearing standard. so that way you can get yourself tested. It would be a shame for you to go through all the stages of the hiring process, put all this time, work, and effort into getting to the end stages, and then you find out for some reason you don't meet either the vision or the hearing standard, which is a huge letdown. So please avoid that. Get yourself tested if you're concerned about either of these areas, so that way you're prepared. So hopefully that answered your question there. And certainly for the auxiliary, same thing, it would apply. Okay. Um, oh, I see a few names that I've met at events popping up here, saying hello. That's always a positive sign. Um, Question here: how many intake classes are left in the calendar year of 2026? So, the next class that's going in is in June, as I mentioned. June 1st is the intake. The one after that would be the fall intake in September, and then the one after that would be the winter intake in December. So certainly, you still have 2 more intakes. Any applications that are submitted moving forward, we would consider for the September intake and certainly the winter intake, depending on how long it takes for your application to process through. So don't rush. Even though there is only 2 more intakes left after the June one, certainly, if you take longer than that, naturally you just compete for a position in the new 2027 intake. So again, continue working on your application, making sure you're putting the product that's as detailed and thorough as possible. That shows us your overall competitive advantage, right? So keep that in mind. Moving right along here. I'm just trying to see, did I miss any of the questions? No. Okay. Everybody's just saying hi. So that's a good thing. Claudie says, hi, Sergeant Prash. I'm currently slated to start in the June 1st intake. Do you know if we will get an email about to bring for joining instructions? Yes, you will get instructions. If you haven't done so already, please look at the package that you were sent when you signed your conditional offer. There is a lot of detail in there, a lot of instructions in there, and certainly we do follow up with further instruction. But if you're looking for some specific information that maybe you are not finding in the package that we sent you, please email us, and certainly we will try to address that for you. Okay. Auxiliary applications, yes, we're still accepting auxiliary applications. If you go on opp.ca/careers and you go through the portal, you will see the auxiliary portal available to you that you can submit your application through. Okay, so we're accepting auxiliary, we're accepting regular constable. You won't see the cadet stream available at this point. We are not accepting application directly for the cadet position. That is something that we are doing on the internal side as people are applying. Okay. Do you have any advice for people who are not that good at interviews? And I get this question a lot, actually. And I conduct interviews for the cadet. Certainly in the past, cadet positions, auxiliary positions, regular constable, and the experienced police officer positions. The interview process, I find, is quite nerve-wracking for a lot of our candidates. One, any interview for a job is always nerve-wracking, but when you're applying for a policing type of a position, you're always trying to see what you can do to be more competitive than your fellow applicant. If you feel that maybe in an interview that you don't perform well, or you're not able to talk about all the things that you bring to the table, certainly there are helping I guess assistant methods that you can utilize. One, private coaching, interview coaching that you can provide. I have seen many of this out there. You just have to do your research on which company or person that's providing this type of service is the right fit for you. There might be costs associated with it. We don't provide this at this point due to the fact that we don't have the capacity or the time to invest in this type of session for our applicants. But certainly do your due diligence to look at what's out there and certainly find the one that's the right fit for you. But one of the biggest things that helped me when I was going through the process was writing out the examples. So, we have the 10 areas of assessment. That's what we focus on when you go through the interview process. What kind of helped me when I was going through the interview process was writing out all the examples for each of those 10 areas of assessments. And then I would just look at myself in the mirror and I would just practice. And that really helps you when you're in an interview, because when you're feeling nervous or you're feeling the words are not coming out, when you practice that on a consistent basis, it will naturally help you get into the flow. Even if you miss a thought or miss a word, you know what the other words or the sentence or the phrase that you've practiced, and that will kind of help you get back on trajectory. So focus on that. Focus on writing out your examples and then practicing them. I find that really does help you. Okay. How does the 12-month wait period affect the new application? I'm not sure what the question is. Maybe you can rephrase that. Something that maybe I can go a few ways with that question. Maybe if you can rephrase it for me, I'll address it. One of the other things I want to also talk about is our bound that's happening in Thunder Bay coming up in June. Certainly, we'll have more information that we will be promoting as we get ready for the bound. Certainly, we're still accepting applications and people that are interested in taking part. So it's being held in Thunder Bay. Please go on our website, opp.ca/events. To get all the details of it. If you are in the Thunder Bay area, or if you're looking to visit Thunder Bay, or if you want to be posted in Thunder Bay and you want to know what it's all about, this is the perfect situation that you can get yourself involved in. So again, like I said, for more info, go to opp.ca/events and look at the North Bound, which is the first one that we're doing this year to kick off all the bounds that will be coming in the upcoming summer and fall event. And the other question here is, how competitive is recruitment right now? I would say very, not only just for the OPP, but certainly all the other police services out there. Our goal is to certainly recruit for our organization. That means getting the best officer, the best recruit possible that has varying experiences, various training or anything that they bring to the table that's going to enhance our organization and certainly move it forward to the next stage. So when you go to either the outreach events or our shoulder run events, you truly get to engage with the recruiters to understand what we're looking for. And we always focus on the 10 areas of assessment. That's what we always come to because that's what you're being assessed on at the application stage, at the interview stage, and even as you go towards the further processes in terms of hiring. So try and do your best to be competitive as possible in each of the areas, the 10 areas. Again, if you go on our social media pages or our online platforms there, you'll see the pie chart that I'm talking about, which focuses on the 10 areas. And try to see if you can list as many points for each of those areas. If you feel like you can talk about each of the area in a strong manner, you probably are a very competitive candidate and you should be applying to us. But certainly if there are areas maybe where you're not hitting the mark, try and do things to get yourself more stronger in those areas, right? Try to do the best you can to update, whether it's experiences, practical skills, or even educational skills in different areas to get yourself stronger in that area, right? As you're competing for a spot, there's only a certain amount of spots that we can hire for in each class. So again, if you're not a standout or a competitive candidate, certainly that is going to hold you back or set you back a little bit. So do the best you can to be strong as much as possible in each of the area, and certainly that gives yourself the best chance to get hired. Okay. Another question: does prior deferrals with another agency affect the recruitment process with the OPP? I would say no, not at all. We're not going to look at that and make a decision on whether you're a strong candidate or not based on what another organization deemed. We are going to do our own due diligence of reviewing your file, going through and assessing it in a fair and equitable manner, and then giving you the opportunity to go through. As you know, our application process is very streamlined, and most of the feedback that I always get consistently is how quick and efficient we are and how fast the feedback is given in terms of going from one stage to the other. So currently, as it stands right now, you would go to opp.ca/careers. You would work on your application within our portal. It's an online portal. You would start filling all that information out there. Once you submit your application, it's the fitness stage that you would have to pass. Currently, our fitness standard is achieving level 7 on the shuttle run. Once you achieve level 7, you're then assessed for the suitability for an interview. Certainly, if you are selected for the interview and are successful, you then move on to the psych and the background investigation stage. And after that, you're looking at the job offer. So it's very, very streamlined, very quick and efficient. So certainly, we want to assess you for what you bring to the table, not based on what another agency has deemed you for, if that makes sense. Okay. Question here about interview prep. My ECI is coming up on June 1st. Do I need to mention character reference who are different from learning, or they can be the same? It should be different. It should be 9 different references. And again, it's not reference letters, but just the name and the contact information. So you'll have your employment references. You need three names for that. You would need your learning references, someone that can speak to your ability to learn and able to retain information, somebody in a training position or a teaching position, whether it's that from your school or work. And then certainly your personal references, right? So you should have 3 different people for each section, so we can get 9 different perspectives, right? So you have 9 in total, 3 for each section. So please do your due diligence to have 3 different people. I'm sure if you sit there and think about different people that can speak to these categories, you will be able to come up with 9 different people. Okay. Good question here. I was wondering what the first week and a half or so of training at OPP headquarters consists of prior to going back home for the online portion of OPC. So usually our orientation week, it's a week where you're essentially, I'm smiling because I'm thinking about my orientation week. So when I think about the orientation week, that for me, it was nerve-wracking, right? Many of our recruits show up on a Sunday night. They would show up. They would walk, they would drive to our OPP general headquarters, where they would pick up their, access cards and the credentials that they need to access our building where they're staying. So they would go there, and then they would show up to our building. That's where you will meet your fellow recruits. So all the recruits that have been hired across the province, across the country, or even abroad, certainly that's where you're going to meet them. You're getting ready. And the orientation week, you're getting to know your instructors. You're getting all your uniform, your kit, everything that you need to have in preparation for your training. You'll have a lot of paperwork that you'll need to sign, right? And you'll get to know what the course is going to be, what you're expected to pass, what's expected of you as a recruit by the OPP. So that's more of a transition, a preparation. And one of the biggest things I enjoyed during my orientation week was going to our massive quartermaster store. So there's a massive warehouse that we have. And you would walk into the warehouse, and you have this massive duffel bag. Okay, you have this massive duffel, and you're filling all the kit and everything. You're trying on everything, all the things. The great thing about this is it's shopping, but you don't pay anything for it. We're paying you to go shopping. So that's the way you look at it. So you get all your stuff, and essentially you're just mentally getting prepared for the Ontario Police College that's coming up. Well, first being the online training portion, and then the in-person training portion. And then certainly once you successfully complete the Ontario Police College, certainly then you'll come back to the the Provincial Police Academy for training afterwards, post-academy training. Okay. So again, it's meant to be more of an enriching experience. It's meant to be a very engaging experience. And it just more of a training that you're getting ready for. That's what it's all about. Okay. Another question here. What do you do if during your local focus interview you're asked questions regarding a specific incident that happened years and years ago, and you cannot recall the details, but you also don't want to look like you're hiding something? And absolutely, and I think that's the way to approach it. Many of us probably have had experiences with things that we have done, and over time you lose the ability to recall or remember the specific details. Maybe you remember snippets of it, but you can't recall date, time, location, reference point. And that is fine. It happens all the time. But do the best you can to really answer the question with conviction. What I mean by that is do the best you can to recall as much detail as possible and give the recruiter an honest answer. And sometimes you might have to say, I don't recall the specifics of it. This is what I recall. And certainly that's all you can do at that point, because you don't have any reference materials that you can look at or go back to. That's why the pre-background questionnaire that we send you is very, very important. So make sure you fill out the pre-background questionnaire with as much detail as possible. So that way, when you're in the interview, the recruiter already has a lot of information right off the bat that you don't need to explain, where they might just ask you clarifying questions on certain scenarios, especially if you have things in your past where you have to elaborate on. So pre-background questionnaire that we send you in preparation for your interview is very, very important. So fill that in as much detail as possible. So that way, when you get a question in the interview, you already know what the follow-up question and answer is going to be. Okay. That amazing questions, by the way. So thanks for setting those my way. Um, Another question here. I was just curious about my application that closed about 3 weeks early to my North Detachment submission deadline. Before I could submit my interest to many North detachments, such as Wyerton and Algonquin. This is for the constable position. Is there anything I can do? I am fit, OACP certified kinesiology degree, a clean background, and have a genuine passion for policing. So it looks like what you're talking about is in the process of your application, your file was closed off. I probably have some follow-up questions to answer your questions more in depth, because there's probably more to this that probably needs a proper answer. So again, reach out to us via email, and that way I can properly answer your question, because I do have a few more questions about that scenario. Okay. Is there a max age to become an OPP officer? And the answer is no. The minimum age is 18. You have to be 18 years of age or older to apply, but there is no age cutoff. I know in our past class, we had a few candidates that were actually in their mid 50s. They have always wanted to be a police officer or pursue the policing profession, but due to life and other personal and family circumstances, they weren't able to do so. But certainly, I have interviewed candidates, certainly older candidates. As long as they can meet the requirements and they have the passion and the motivation, and certainly they're capable of meeting the fitness standards, there's nothing that's stopping you from applying. So if you're someone listening to this session and you're considering, oh, you know what, whether you're a right fit or whether being an older candidate, if that's going to work against you, absolutely not. Being an older candidate, I think there's a lot of value you bring to the table, a lot of life experience, a lot of things that you've seen and done and went through, positive or negative, that is going to benefit the organization and certainly the people and the communities that you serve. So don't hesitate. Just be confident that what you have and what you bring to the table is valued, and just apply and go through the process. And you might shock yourself, and see how far you get and potentially get hired, and serve a community that you want to do that for. Okay. Question here: if we are coming from out of province, do they get accommodations for that 3-week portion of online work at OPC? Yes. So certainly that is something that we will accommodate you for. We do have academy locations that we do have our recruits stay in. Some people just prefer to go home, and certainly that's an option. But certainly accommodation is provided when you're going through training with us. Okay. Prep test. Question about a prep test. Do you have to complete the prep test as well as reach level 7, the shuttle run in the recruitment process? No. The only fitness assessment that we currently have in our hiring process is level 7. You are not required to do the prep or the pass in our recruitment process. You will be assessed on the prep test when you attend Ontario Police College. That is part of your BCT, the Basic Constable Training Program, that you would have to pass to obtain your Ontario Police College diploma. So for us, when you submit the application, you would be tested on the shuttle, showing that you're capable of achieving level 7. And once you are given a job offer, you also have to show us that you're capable of achieving level 7. So one test at the start of the process and one after you achieve the job offer. Okay, so those are the two times that you would have to do your fitness test. Certainly, you would still have to complete your fitness logs weekly that you would show us in terms of what you do to maintain your fitness. but that is something that you track and you submit. But the testing is only the shuttle twice. Okay. Good question though. Does it help your application to put northern detachments as selections or posting preferences? Every single region and every single detachment across the province is canvassed in terms of where we're posting our candidates. So you putting your detachment to a specific location does not give you any sort of higher advantage, does not make you bypass any of the hiring stages. You are still required to meet and pass successfully every single stage of the hiring process. Certainly, our northern detachments, as you know, we are always promoting people to consider those locations because of the need of constables to be there. But in saying that, I want to make sure that I don't give you the impression that by applying there, you are somehow given an unfair advantage over others that maybe are applying to the East region, West, or the HSD region. You are still required to pass everything successfully, and every single candidate would be assessed equally as they're going through the hiring process. And when they get to the selection stage of detachment postings, our coordinator at that point then looks at where these positions are being asked for. And if you have a northern posting or a duration posting that you are requesting, certainly now we will entertain that and see and make sure that we give you that spot, especially if you're asking for the north. Okay, so that's something good for you to understand. Question here: I had submitted my application but did not qualify, and then I received an email to wait for a year to submit a new one. How long does this rejection impact future applications? It doesn't. Certainly, the requirement for you to wait the year is to give you the chance to work on things that you probably maybe were lacking or need to improve on. So that year you can take to review your application, see what areas of the 10 areas of assessment that maybe you're falling short in, and see how you can improve. And when you come back and you apply again, now we're going to assess your new application. We're not looking at your previous one and looking for that. We're looking at your new application, seeing how you improved in your areas, and seeing how competitive you are as a candidate, and we base our decision on that. Okay. Another question here: being born and raised in Canada, I have been waiting to be a police officer in Canada, but a minor hearing loss has stopped me from passing the medical. Is there any way around this with the force audiology test? You if again, depending on what, again, there's many questions. I have many questions about this question, but again, if this is something that you are concerned about, knowing that you went through the process and this is what's stopping you, certainly there are other avenues that you can look at with the support of the organization, where we would refer you to a specialist that you can consider speaking to. Certainly reach out to us, and certainly I'll be able to talk more specifically to you about this situation. Okay. Do you need CPR training before applying to be an OPP constable? First aid and CPR is a requirement that you do need to have prior to us giving you the job offer, but you you don't have to have it when you're submitting the application. And the reason for this is, there's a cost associated to getting this training, the CPR and first aid training. There's many companies that offer this training, but our intention is to make sure that you're given, we reduce as many financial barriers as possible. So certainly you can apply without these certificates, but if you get to the end of our hiring process and you are going to be given a job offer, we will let you know at that point that you need to go secure this training so we can give you the job offer. So at that point, it makes sense for you to spend the money to get this training because certainly you're looking at a potential job offer that you need to, that's coming your way, right? So that's something for you to consider. Do you need to pass the shuttle run or fitness testing for the special constable position? So currently, we don't hire for the special constable position within the Uniform Recruitment Unit. It is something that is, that we will be taking over in the near future. But there is a fitness assessment that you do need to pass when it comes to the special constable process. And again, that is something that is done depending on which region or the detachment that's currently hiring for that position. So look at the requirements there, see what they're asking for and how they want you to submit the shuttle run requirement, and then you can go from there. Okay. Another question here. I was a police officer in my country, and in Canada, I was diagnosed with PTSD and completed the Police Foundation training program. Can I still apply to the OPP? Absolutely, you can. You can certainly apply. There's nothing that prevents you from applying, and you would still have to go through the regular hiring process as anyone else. And then certainly, if you're competitive and if you're able to meet every single criteria, including your medical criteria, then there's no reason why you wouldn't be given a chance to be a police officer. All right. Great questions, by the way. I'm just trying to see if there's any of the questions that I missed, but I appreciate all the questions, and I feel like I'm going down a path where I might not keep my promise that I made at the start of the session, which is answering every single question that you ask. Um, Another question here: what comes after the psychological testing? Usually, the psychological testing process has a written phase and an interview phase, where you would be speaking to one of our one-on-one with our psychologist or a psychometrist. And certainly, as you're in the psychological process, certainly there's a background investigation that would be happening simultaneously, or once you finish, certainly it'll happen. So those are the final phases of testing that you would do before you're considered for a job offer. Okay. What are the most common reasons candidates are screened out? There are a lot of reasons. Obviously, I'm not going to go into the specifics of what they are. There's a lot of reasons. One, it could be as simple as you don't meet the minimum requirements. Maybe if you only have a G2 and you apply with your G2, again, you're not going to get screened in the process because you don't meet the requirement to have a full G license. The 10 areas of assessment I spoke about. Overall, when we assess you as a candidate, this is the area that we're assessing you on. So depending on maybe if you're not strong in many of these areas, maybe overall as a candidate, you're not competitive and you need to take time to, become stronger in each of these areas. So those are just very like examples that are not of a strong nature, but there are many, many things in your background or things in your past. Maybe you're driving, many things like that can take you out of the process. But again, don't focus on what's going to take you out of the process, but focus on what's going to uplift you and make you a stronger candidate. I think if you approach the interview and the process from that mindset, I think you will have a better shot of being successful in it, right? So focus on that. How important is post-secondary education or prior experience? Again, there is an education requirement in the hiring process. Minimum, you need to have a high school diploma. High school diploma is the minimum requirement, but we are seeing the majority of our candidates, they do have some form of post-secondary education, whether it's college, university, postgraduate, or even specified training, in terms of skill sets. So as long as you meet the minimum requirement, that's what we're looking for. Whatever else that you have that you bring to the table certainly makes you more competitive. If we have candidates that are going back to complete maybe a college degree or a diploma that they worked on, but they have left for personal reasons or family reasons, they had to go get a job. Now they're going back to finish that on a part-time basis or through a virtual or online platform, essentially to make them more of a competitive candidate. So there are things that you can do if you feel maybe the education piece is lacking. But again, the minimum requirement is the high school diploma, right? That is what you need to have to apply. And then certainly if you can show us that you're strong in other areas, certainly that will make you stand out as a competitive candidate, even if you're lacking that education piece. Again, let me see if I can pick out a question here that I didn't have a chance to address. A question here: does having a consumer proposal minimize your chance of becoming an OPP officer? So certainly, your finances is something that we do look at the interview stage and certainly at the background assessment phase. I know if you did have difficulties with your finances or managing your finances, or you've had debt or consumer proposals or bankruptcies, these are things that happen in life. We all have good debt and bad debt. What's an example of a good debt? Maybe mortgage, student loan, a vehicle loan, because these are things that you need to live your day-to-day life and meet the responsibilities of your day-to-day life. What are examples of bad debt? Anything from maybe gambling debts, or not paying off your credit card bills, or defaulting on a loan. So these are things that would come up in our discussions. As long as you can articulate why it happened, how it happened, certainly we'll take all these things into consideration when we look at your file. But just be honest and forthright about what happened, because we would, as we go through your file and as you go through your background, certainly these things will come up. And it's always best for you to be honest and straightforward about it and provide the details. And certainly we will look at it on a case-by-case basis. Okay. Here, let's. Great questions. That's a good one too. Question here. I'm 25 years old and I currently work for the OPS in a permanent position as an inspector. Would I be able to transfer through, and how long would the process take? Also, would I be a strong candidate? Absolutely. So the great thing about being an OPS member is you'll be able to essentially transition through, whether it's your pension, your salary, all those things are kept the same. You're essentially transitioning within the OPS circle. The only thing that you would have to do is to essentially apply for the constable position and go through the hiring process. But all your other factors when it comes to salary, your pension, all those things would remain the same, and you would not have to take a pay cut or a pay loss in any way, which is a benefit. And certainly, I think the whole pension piece of it, you don't lose any time. You can continue your service, and certainly it just gets added on. So certainly, look forward to having you apply if that's a route that you're looking at. How strong are you as a candidate? Again, that's where we're going to assess once you apply. Once you apply, we'll be able to review your entire application and assess you based on the 10 areas of assessment to see how strong you are as a candidate. Okay. Question here in terms of at what point in the recruitment process do we contact your past employers? Usually this happens at the background investigation phase. When you're successful at the local focus and essential competency interview, your file moves on to the next stage of the hiring process, which is the psych and the background stage. And at the background stage, usually, your background investigator will call you, introduce themselves, and let them know what they're expecting and what they need help with in processing your file forward. And at that point, certainly all your past employers, your work references, personal references, and any other references that they want to speak to, that is when they are usually contacted, right? So if you have certain things that you want to bring up about your references, or maybe you want to give your background investigator a heads up on some of these references, that would be the ideal time for you to do that, okay? Question here: does the OPP mind if an applicant applies to many of the services, whether simultaneously or in the past? Not at all. If you have a reason to apply to another police service, whether it's another municipal service, along with your chance of applying to the OPP, we don't mind that. I know I've heard stories about other services. They don't like seeing that. Certainly, we don't take that stance. If you want to apply, this is your choice, this is your career, this is your life. If you have a reason to apply to another police service, go ahead. At the end of the day, all the police services are competing for your service and your talent. Certainly we're hoping we can beat the other services out to get your talents to the OPP. So we're going to do what we need to do from a processing timeline perspective to get your application through, so we can get you into the next class. And again, it's good, I guess, good competition, right? It's we're all competing against each other, even though we're all a policing family. We're all competing against each other to get your services. So for the OPP stance perspective, it doesn't impact you in a negative manner if you have applications with another service at the same time you have one with us. Okay. Here, let me see if there's one I missed here. I feel like I missed one here earlier. Question about when the next class is starting. June 1st. June 1st is the next recruit intake. That is when they're reporting here to GHQ. Here, I thought I missed one here. See if I missed one. Question here: how long is the timeline from receiving your final offer letter to the start date? Again, it could vary. Some people get their offers when they're eligible. So if you can look at it as each of the file is getting to the finish line, and if that person is eligible for a job offer, usually our coordinators will call them and provide the job offers. So it varies based on the timeline of each application, who makes it to the end line first and who's eligible, because we don't like keeping candidates waiting, especially if they're waiting for a job offer and if they're eligible for a job offer. So if you are eligible for a job offer, rest assured you're going to get that call to give you the opportunity to select that detachment, one of the 6 that you picked. So that is something that we make sure we do. Question on what does the home interview look like? I don't like going into too much into it because usually all of our background investigators will determine how they do it, what sort of parameters they want to set, or what sort of question they're going to ask, and what they want information on. So I'm not going to touch too much on it, just out of respect for our background investigators. But certainly, if you have a specific question or a concern about it, certainly reach out to us and I can address that for you. Okay. Thank you for answering my question. Absolutely. That's the whole point of our AMAs, to get you the information. About We're almost at a quarter, I guess, about 10 minutes ago here. So that flew by very, very quick. But again, keep the questions coming so that way I can get it answered before we wrap up. Question here about your past employment references. What if you cannot get a hold of your past supervisors? And that sometimes happens. Sometimes the business is closed down. Sometimes the people that work there have moved on and nobody has a contact for them. These are things that happen, absolutely, and we've seen these scenarios. And at that point, we will come back and speak to you about other things that maybe we might want from you, and we'll give you a bit more direction and guidance, and in terms of what we're looking for. So don't worry, do the best you can, especially when you're filling out the reference portion on your personal history form in preparation for the interview. Do the best you can to fill out as much information as possible. And anything that's missing or you're not able to obtain, we will do what we need to do on our end to close off that loop. So again, do the best you can, get as much information as possible, and then leave the rest as we work with you on that. Okay. Question here: What are the age requirements? My son completed Police Foundations program in college in French, but it's only 19. As I mentioned earlier, 18 and over is the eligibility requirement when it comes to age. And as a parent, certainly it's nice to see you hopping on our session looking for an opportunity for your son. That's always a good thing. So clearly your son's very fortunate to have a parent like you. But going back to what you're saying here, there are various other opportunities that your son can look at. One is our auxiliary program. The reason I say the auxiliary program is because the auxiliary program will give your son a lot of insight, knowledge, and growth about the organization, but not only about the organization, but the policing profession as a whole. As an auxiliary member, you'll be able to take part in events, you'll be able to go on ride-alongs with officers, and you work out of a detachment. So you truly get an exposure into this profession, and you kind of see what this is all about. And that way your son can make an informed decision about if this career is the right career for them. And if it is, great. At least now they're able to, have personal relationships with employers who can write reference letters for them, and essentially support them as they're pursuing the police profession. If it turns out maybe this is not the profession for them, at least they can walk away with the experience and the field experience that they had in this program, and certainly go pursue maybe another passion that they have. That's one option. Certainly, if maybe the cadet opportunity is what you're looking for, that is something they can identify in the process as they're going through the constable stream. And certainly, if we see them being a better fit for the cadet portfolio, now we will give them that opportunity. So those two are a really good fit. And sometimes, it doesn't matter that they're 19. They could still be an amazing officer. We have a lot of young people that are applying and going through our process, being hired, that make amazing officers through training and coaching and mentorship as they're going through the training phase. But not only that, when they hit the detachment during the probationary time, certainly many of our young people are more than capable of learning and transitioning into this challenging profession. So I would say, speak to them. Certainly, if they want to speak to me about some of the questions or hesitancies that they have about applying when they're young, certainly I'll be more than happy to address it. But at the end of the day, there are a few options that they can exercise prior to, maybe not just applying at all. Okay. Question here about, I guess, spousal arrangements. If I were to accept moving to a detachment in the northern region, are there spousal supports available if my partner is to come with me? So as a brand new recruit, certainly there are a bit of limitations in terms of what you can utilize as an employee. Certainly, if your spouse is looking for opportunities or maybe employment, if that's one of your concerns, certainly one of the things I would suggest is to reach out to the detachment that you're looking to move to. Many of our officers in the northern detachment areas are amazing. Even the command staff are amazing. They will answer a lot of the questions or the concerns that you have about moving there or living in the community as a brand new officer. Depending on what you're looking for. If there's specific things that you're looking for, the great the great initial point of contact would be to just reach out to the detachment and let them know that you're considering applying to the detachment as a posting, and you just have a few questions about what the transition would look like, or what available supports there are locally at the detachment level, but also within the community. So that way you are mentally prepared before you even go there. And the other thing is, and some people have done this, take a drive down to the detachment that you're considering. Go look at the community, go walk in the community, go for a day trip or a weekend trip and see what it's like, and see what you see. And that is always a good telling sign whether that's going to be a right fit for you, right? So look at that, do some due diligence, do some training on your side to see what it's all about. All right, so that way you're better prepared. Coming under just 10 minutes here before we wrap up. I'm just going to try to scroll back here and see if I missed anything. Question here: I speak French better than English. Can I still apply? Yeah, absolutely. If French is your primary language, but you still read, write, and speak English, understand it, but not as strong as French, that's totally fine. Certainly, as long as you're capable of meeting our standards and passing our requirements, that is not going to prevent you from being an officer with us. Many of our candidates that we hire, English is a second language to them. But they're still able to communicate, read, write, and speak, and that's what we're looking for. You have to be able to read, write, and speak English. And so I would say absolutely apply. That's not going to stop you from being hired or prevent you from being hired. Okay. Like I said, another question here: what is your favorite part of being an OPP recruiter? I'd be interested in a job like yours one day. Well, I can tell you, I'm looking at two of my colleagues here that are helping me with this session, answering all the questions. So I love working with them. I wish I can turn the camera on and show you, but I don't think they're gonna like that, so we're not gonna do that. But I love working with my colleagues, like in the recruitment team specifically. I work on the outreach side of it, so I work with a lot of wonderful people that are out there. One of my colleagues in East Region right now, Gobi, is out there at a couple of events that we have going on today. The PWHL event this afternoon and evening in Ottawa, and certainly I think he's at an information session. I spoke to him this morning. So a lot of people on the outreach side and certainly the processing side, we work hand in hand. But one, in my current position, I love it. It was not too long ago that I was where you are, listening to the AMAs, attending the information sessions, attending the fitness sessions, wanting to be a police officer and trying to have that competitive advantage to be hired. So being on the flip side now, where I am, I get to play that other role where I'm providing mentorship, guidance, and help, and motivating people to consider this profession. I've always wanted to be a police officer. That's something that I always looked at, especially my exposure to policing came in high school when I was exposed to school resource officers. They were amazing officers, really left a very positive impression on me in terms of policing. And here I am, 12 years later, being in this position, and I get the chance to do that. So all the experiences I've had, whether it was a detachment where I first started in Quinte West, to then working at Toronto detachment, and then being a coach officer, a media officer. So all these different roles I've done to here I am being in a recruiter position. So I'm not sure what's ahead for me next, but certainly I love it. I thrive in where I work right now, and I enjoy each and every day coming into work. And I think if you speak to different officers that are in multitude of roles, I'm talking hundreds and hundreds of different roles across the organization, each one would probably have different things to say in terms of how it started for them and where they are and what they really enjoy about it. But if I had to truly lock down my answer on my current role and what I enjoy, I really love mentoring our candidates, motivating our candidates, whether at an event when I get a chance to speak to them, engage with them at a fitness session or an outreach event, or the information sessions that I host here at GHQ. There's so many different parameters that we have, which all leads back to hiring the best possible candidate for the organization. And anytime I speak to anyone, I always approach it with the mindset, this person could be our next potential commissioner for the OPP. I could be talking to somebody that could be that person, as they get hired and move through our process and eventually through the organization. So I never lose sight of that, and I always approach it that way. And I think I've been blessed to be given amazing opportunities, and I just look forward to continuing to do what we do as a team, as an outreach team, and as a recruitment team, and hire the best possible candidate for the OPP. So I would say that's how it's been for me, and it's been great so far. So nothing I would change other than that. So yeah, thank you for that question. That's kind of, you took me back on a reminiscing role there. But yeah, just as a wrap up here, as I find all these sessions always wrap up very, very quickly. Then one of the biggest things that we always try to do is when our bounds, our northern bound in Thunder Bay is coming up in June. Certainly, we're still accepting people applications for those sessions. So if you are interested truly to see what the Northwest is all about, this is your opportunity to attend, engage, see what we have to offer, what the OPP has to offer in some of these areas that we're trying to post, to help you make that decision, that of a stronger one. As always, please go on our website, opp.ca/events. That'll help you get the information that you need to know about the events that we're hosting across the province. As I look at our months coming up for June, July, and August, it'll be a busy summertime, which means that we're out there engaging and promoting, and certainly looking forward to speaking to you. So in saying that, thanks again for hopping on another session of our AMA. I don't think I answered all the questions that I was hoping to do, but just like this one, we'll be back at it again in a couple of weeks. So enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy the beautiful weather. It's a bit chilly though. Enjoy the beautiful weather, and look forward to seeing many of you at the next session. All right, take care, everybody.